888-881-6858 today. Spectrum Business, made to work.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump squaring off in their first debate, the two diving into tough issues facing America, including immigration, affordable housing, and the economy. The candidates began the night by contrasting their policy plans.
I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
Today marks 23 years since the September 11th terrorist attacks. Nearly 3,000 died in New York, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. Commemorations are being held at the World Trade Center site, at the Flight 93 National Memorial in Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will visit all 3 sites today. Former President Trump will visit New York and Pennsylvania. Francine is now a Category 1 hurricane. That's according to the National Hurricane Center. Residents in Louisiana are preparing for it to make landfall today. A hurricane watch has been issued for the New Orleans area, with the region expected to feel storm force winds and possible storm surge today. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. Our temperatures starting to warm up across the Central Plains into the Great Lakes region. Highs are going to start to get above the average in the upper 80s to near 90 from Chicago to Kansas City. And out west, we're finally cooling off after our extended stretch of hot weather. But all eyes are on the Gulf Coast with Hurricane Francine getting ready to make landfall sometime this afternoon and evening. Going to be bringing the threat for storm surge, some heavy rainfall, and some strong winds to the state of Louisiana. I'll have more details on those impacts coming up in 10 minutes on your Weather on the Ones.
So much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. It is Wednesday, September 11th. Today marks 23 years since the terror attacks. Services are being held across the country to remember the nearly 3,000 who died in New York, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. Here's a look at the World Trade Center site via EarthCam. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will attend September 11th ceremonies today after last night's high-stakes debate. They faced off on policy while laying out starkly different visions for America. Spectrum's Angie Gonzalez has more.
The ABC News debate kicked off with Vice President Kamala Harris extending a handshake to former President Donald Trump as the two had not previously met face-to-face. In the more than 90 minutes that followed, the two attacked each other's policies on several issues, including the border.
I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country.
Harris called out many of Trump's claims as false. The former president continued to amplify unsubstantiated claims that he won the 2020 election. She also sought to set the record straight on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, an issue Republicans have focused on in recent weeks.
Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
Trump also criticized the Biden administration on its foreign policy, claiming that if he were president, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the October 7th terrorist attacks in Israel would not have occurred.
I know Putin very well. He would have never, and there was no threat of it either. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, She hates Israel.
Shortly after going head-to-head, the Harris campaign said their candidate was ready to face off a second time. In his own social media post, Trump wrote that Harris wanted another debate because she lost so badly. Here's how both sides thought their candidate performed.
I think he had a lot of great points, a lot of great things to say.
She was presidential. She was commanding. She was in charge of that stage.
Angie joins us now. Angie, Harris promoted her stance on protecting women's reproductive freedom. What did Trump have to say about where he stands?
Well, Harris's message on this issue, Bree, was consistent with what she said on the campaign trail. But the ABC News moderators of the debate asked Trump where he stands on a possible abortion ban because it was something that the vice president specifically brought up, saying that Trump is in favor of it. And recently, the former president's messaging on the issue of abortion as a whole, including a ballot measure in Florida, has been a little bit muddled. So after the debate, he was asked again about a possible abortion ban because he did not answer the question during the debate. And we're talking about a federal abortion ban. Here's what he said.
You were asked if you would veto a national abortion ban, and you did not say yes or no. What is your answer to that?
So all you have to do is check it. It was a perfect answer on abortion, and I've done a great job in that, and I brought our country together. Thank you.
Yes or no?
So, as you can see there, Bree, sidestepping the issue once again, he is saying that it should be a decision that is up to the states. Bree?
All right, Angie Gonzalez. Thank you very much, Angie. And for more debate context, our political director, Bob Hart, joins us now. Bob, we have a lot to get to with the debate, but first I wanted to ask you about something that happened after the debate. Former President Trump making an appearance in the spin room to talk to reporters. Why would he do this?
If you think you had a mic drop moment on the debate stage, you leave the mic and that's it. I feel that Trump must have been concerned about his performance. Otherwise, why go talk to reporters? You've just been talking for the last 90 minutes.
Now, we spoke yesterday about how this was Vice President Harris's first real test on the debate stage. You know, she was only a contender less than 2 months ago. A lot of voters were saying that they wanted to hear more from her. Did they get that last night?
We heard more from her. I don't know if we heard more about her plans for the next 4 years as much as she really was able to draw Donald Trump off into tangents and away from the two winning issues for Republicans, the migrant crisis and the economy. She baited him, and he took the bait about his rallies, about foreign leaders laughing at him. And so there were a lot of tangents I don't think that were particularly helpful to him that he went on last night.
And did that strategy work, in your opinion, to bait him?
I think it really did work. I think this was probably the strongest debate performance we've seen against Donald Trump by anyone since he entered the political sphere.
Really? Okay. That's an important point. Trump also had his own jabs. He did offer Harris a MAGA hat. What was that about?
Well, I mean, he's trying to have some fun, and there is that Trump, random, weird spirit that we did see on the stage. I think he was most effective saying, you've been vice president for 3.5 years. The migrant crisis, or the roots of the migrant crisis, were one of your responsibilities. You didn't do anything. That, I think, was his most effective attack. But that got lost in a lot of smoke that some of it was caused by Harris, I think, very effectively.
And also, he accusing her of trying to take on his policies as well. What were some of the big moments for you, the big standouts?
I sort of felt like a lot of this was almost like a real-time fact check of a Trump rally. So there wasn't necessarily a moment, but a series of moments where Trump would often say things unchecked at his rallies, and Harris is like, wait a minute, this isn't the truth. And also helping her was a couple untruths that Trump spoke that he was corrected by the moderators, talking about abortion after a baby was born, talking about migrants allegedly eating house pets. And that helped, I think, Harris as well, of the moderators saying, wait a minute, this just isn't true.
Did you think her background as a prosecutor kind of came into play here?
100%. I think that her years in California doing that clearly helped her. She looked prosecutorial, but not overbearing, and that's a hard balance. I also think she mastered the split screen that she must have trained. She looked not angry, but almost...
There were a lot of facial expressions that were very telling when those mics were cut off. It was almost like she was still trying to get her point across.
She looked bemused, and she clearly worked at that, whereas Trump just sort of had a scowl at times, and clearly someone had prepared her. This is how you should look when you're not talking.
Did you feel one or the other was better prepared in this?
They were both prepared. They both had their lines, but I think after facing off against sort of a lackluster and confused Joe Biden, Trump wasn't necessarily ready for someone someone who was, firing on all cylinders last night.
There was also a big moment after the debate, and not by either of the candidates.
Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris. Now, older people might roll their eyes. She is the most popular performer in the entire world. She's also, I don't think, someone regarded as frivolous. There are a lot of people out there, young people who've never voted before, who'll do anything Taylor Swift says, and also who have parents. And I think that endorsement is actually extremely important.
And very quickly, Bob, do you think we're going to have another debate?
I think we might. I think this election is so close, and I think Harris and Trump are both worried that even though there was, I think, things they were both annoyed about last night, I think there's a real possibility.
All right, Bob Hart, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for more coverage of the presidential race, including all the highlights from last night's debate, download the Spectrum News app. It's free and available in the App Store and on Google Play.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know that internet is a vital tool to help you fulfill your dreams.
My dream is to become a video game developer.
My dream is to get my online college degree.
That's why Spectrum has affordable solutions to keep you connected.
At Spectrum, we are committed to delivering reliable, affordable internet and unlimited mobile to keep you connected to what matters most to you.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter watching Hurricane Francine as it approaches landfall later this evening. Right now at Category 1 status, and there is a window where the system could gain some more strength, reaching Category 2 status just before making landfall. Warm water temperatures in the middle and upper 80s is going to help the system gain that strength as we head into the next couple of hours or so. But right now on the tropical satellite imagery, no well-defined eye with this system, but it is going to still bring some significant impacts to the Louisiana coast. As of the latest advisory, we're looking at sustained winds around 90 miles per hour, some gusts over 115 miles per hour, moving northeast around 10. And we're going to see this pick up some strength to around 100 miles per hour as we get into the afternoon hours today, just before landfall between 4 and 6 p.m. local time. The system makes the turn more towards the north-northwest up the Mississippi River Valley, and it is going to weaken significantly after making landfall later tonight into the day on Thursday, becoming a tropical depression. Still going to bring the threat for flooding, though, as far north as Arkansas, parts of Tennessee, and even down into southern Missouri, for that matter, as well. But the biggest impacts, though, are going to be felt along the Louisiana coast, where we have some hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings in effect in pink and red, and even some tropical storm watches across southern Mississippi and parts of Louisiana as well. That's how far inland some of those impacts are going to work its way after landfall later this evening. And of course, storm surge is going to be a major concern along the Louisiana coast, but can't rule that out along the Alabama and Mississippi coasts for that matter as well. Strong system bringing that onshore flow could lead to around 5 to 10 feet of storm surge in some spots in southern Louisiana. Louisiana. Up towards the New Orleans region, expecting anywhere between 3, maybe 4 feet of storm surge in those communities. I'm more concerned with the threat for freshwater flooding, with heavy rainfall leading to some very impressive rainfall totals in some spots. Could pick up well over a foot of rain. As a result, moderate risk for excessive rainfall is going to continue through Mississippi, parts of Louisiana, and a slight risk over towards the Florida Panhandle. And we're also going to have to watch for the threat for some severe thunderstorms. Quick spin up tornadoes, always a possibility. I'll have another look at that on the forecast radar, plus a look at some rainfall totals coming up in 10 minutes.
Well, if you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump squaring off in their first debate. The candidates touching on some of the tough issues in America, including immigration, affordable housing, and the economy. Today marks 23 years since the attacks of September 11th, 2001. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will visit all 3 sites today. Former President Trump will visit New York and Pennsylvania. And the Gulf Coast is bracing for Hurricane Francine. The storm is expected to make landfall in Louisiana today. Coastal Mississippi and Alabama are under tropical storm and storm surge watches and warnings. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Shifting now to the war in Ukraine, the NATO-backed country launched its biggest drone attack on Russia since the start of the war. Officials say 140 Ukrainian drones targeted multiple Russian regions, including the country's capital. At least 1 woman was killed and 8 others were injured when a residential building was damaged outside of Moscow. Russian officials say at least 20 Ukrainian drones were destroyed. The attacks forced Russia to temporarily shut down 3 major airports. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to be in Ukraine today for more discussions on American support for the country. Leaders in Washington bestowing the highest congressional honor posthumously to the 13 U.S. service members killed in a suicide bombing during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. As Spectrum's Karina Capabianca reports, the ceremony was held as Republicans seek to make the chaotic withdrawal an issue in this year's presidential campaign.
A solemn moment on Capitol Hill as Congress honors the 13 U.S. service members who died in a suicide bombing at Kabul's airport during the Afghanistan withdrawal 3 years ago. One by one Tuesday, the Gold Star families of the fallen accepted the Congressional Gold Medal on their behalf.
As Gold Star parents, our grief never truly ends. It changes, it transforms, but remains with us always.
House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican, hosted the ceremony, but House and Senate Democratic leaders attended and took turns to thank the service members for their sacrifice.
The gold medal we are presenting today is the highest honor that can be conferred by the United States Congress, but no honor can truly repay the incredible sacrifice made by our fallen.
Still, election year politics shadowed the event. Congress voted unanimously 3 years ago to award the medals, but the ceremony was held amid a campaign in which Republicans have made the deaths an issue, blaming them on President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Last month, former President Donald Trump visited Arlington National Cemetery with families of the fallen for a wreath-laying ceremony, posing for pictures with them. Harris called it a political stunt disrespecting sacred grounds. Tuesday, Johnson took a veiled swipe at Biden in his remarks.
I know many of you have yet to hear these words, so I will say them. We are sorry. The United States government should have done everything to protect our troops. Those fallen and wounded at Abbey Gate deserved our best efforts.
House Republicans on Monday released a report on the withdrawal, blaming the Biden administration. The White House dismissed it as a partisan document that cherry-picked facts. In Washington, Karina Capabianca, Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, our Frank DeLella takes us for a look back at James Earl Jones's storied career on the Broadway stage.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't switch to Spectrum Enterprise.
Well, you said our services meet some of your technology needs.
But not all.
Well, maybe you have too many.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Look, I'm switching to Spectrum Enterprise because they'll be a true partner, and I can't run this network without one. I think you can. Our clients do it all the time.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. Hurricane Francine getting ready to make landfall this afternoon and evening right along the Louisiana coast. This Category 1 hurricane is going to bring some significant impacts to the state of Louisiana and even up towards Mississippi and Alabama for that matter, where we're already seeing some light rainfall associated with some of the outer bands with this Category 1 hurricane. So landfall is expected between about 4 and 6 o'clock. We can expect some heavy rain from New Orleans and Morgan City at the time of landfall, and that heavy rain starts to work its way through Mississippi, parts of Alabama, even the Florida Panhandle. And on the eastern side of the system, the severe weather threat will be highest. Quick spin up tornadoes, almost always a possibility with any landfalling tropical cyclone. And as we get into the overnight hours tonight, that is where the threat will likely be the highest. So make sure you've got multiple ways of receiving severe weather alerts before going to bed. And this hurricane is going to continue to weaken, but it is also going to provide some heavy rainfall and the threat for flooding through northern Mississippi, parts of Alabama, up towards Tennessee for that matter as well. And we are going to see some significant rainfall totals, especially in southeastern Louisiana. Parts of New Orleans could see well over a foot of rain on top of the rain that we had last week. Flooding is always going to be a possibility when you get this much rainfall very quickly. And up towards Mississippi, we have some isolated rainfall totals in that 4 to 6 inch range. Even up towards the Florida Panhandle, going to be seeing your fair share of rainfall as we head into the next 24 to 48 hours. On top of the rain, we're going to be dealing with some strong winds, well over 50 miles per hour in some spots at the time of landfall, 60 miles per hour in Burns, Louisiana. And up towards New Orleans, we're going to see some gusts over 50 miles per hour. At times, that wind is going to be sustained around 50 miles per hour. But of course, as the hurricane makes landfall, it is going to weaken, keeping those gusty winds right around tropical storm force through Mississippi, parts of Alabama, even into the Florida Panhandle for that matter as well. Power outages, almost a certainty, so make sure your devices are charged up before going to bed tonight. And on top of Francine, we're watching a couple other systems in the main development region. This system in red is likely going to become our next named system if it holds together. The system in yellow, not much of a chance for tropical development over the next couple of days. We'll watch both of those very closely, but if any of those develop, the next name on the list is going to be Gordon, our 7th named system so far this hurricane season. Meanwhile, across the rest of the lower 48, we have cooler temperatures taking shape finally. Upper 60s in Portland, 79 degrees in Los Angeles on the west coast, still staying pretty hot though through Las Vegas into Phoenix. And we're going to stay pretty dry across the northern plains into the northeast, but our temperatures will be warming up into the middle and upper 80s and approaching the low 90s.
The Food and Drug Administration says it will investigate heavy metals found in tampons and the potential harm it could cause to women. The FDA saying a study found both organic and non-organic tampons had traces of arsenic and lead. While both levels of the metals were low, the Environmental Protection Agency stated there is no safe level of exposure to lead. The FDA said it will conduct a study to mimic normal use of tampons to see if any amount of metals might be released into the human body during use. As tributes continue to pour in for the late James Earl Jones, we reflect back on his theater career, which included frequent stints on Broadway. Now, some of those who worked with him shared their memories with onstage host Frank DeLella.
James Earl Jones was an entertainment icon, known for that unforgettable baritone voice and his film work. At his core, he was most at home on the stage. On Monday, tributes to the late actor flooded social media with heartfelt posts from Audra McDonald, Coleman Domingo, and Annalie Ashford, who shared the stage with James Earl Jones in 2014. Jones graced the Broadway boards in nearly 24 productions. In 1969, he became the first African-American to win a Tony for Best Actor in a Play for The Great White Hope.
It always feels good, huh? But when I'm fighting, I feel double good.
He earned his second Tony in 1987 for his role as Troy Maxson in Fences.
You understand what I'm saying, boy? So this is a big deal, huh?
And received a special Tony for Lifetime Achievement in 2017. In the fall of 2022, the Court Theater was renamed in his honor. His final show on Broadway was a revival of The Gin Game in 2016. Prior to that, he starred in revivals of You Can't Take It With You and Gore Vidal's The Best Man. Both shows were produced by longtime Tony-winning producer Jeffrey Richards. I caught up with Richards immediately following the news of Jones's passing to reflect on working with the beloved star.
I'll never forget when I asked him to do The Best Man, he asked me, was I asking him to do that because he was a black actor? And I said, no, he was the best actor for the role. And both Gore and I were in agreement about that. You know, often you hear things, and it's true, we won't see his like again.
Entertainment great Debbie Allen directed James Earl Jones in the 2008 Broadway revival of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, where he played Big Daddy opposite Allen's sister Felicia Rashad, who played Big Mama. Debbie, speaking on the phone from Los Angeles on Monday, shared her thoughts on working with James.
Every day he would ask me, Debbie, what are we doing today? Tell me, my director. You know. And he was just very loving, and it was his leadership that took that cast over the top.
On Monday night at the annual American Theater Wing Gala, President and CEO of the Wing, Heather Hitchens, kicked off the evening remembering Jones.
James Earl Jones, you did good. Rest well, friend.
A life in the theater, done good, indeed. James Earl Jones was 93 years old. Frank DeLella for Spectrum News.
Such a storied, far-reaching career that captivated so many of us. And you can always stay connected with us here at Spectrum News by getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back.
To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
To show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels,
that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say.
Save it. It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.